Tasha with The Purposeful You. Today I'm going to share 5 tips to closing out your vegetable garden for the winter time. There's a few crucial steps I want to share with you today that will protect your soil, protect the microbes, and create healthier soil in the springtime. I'm going to break it down to you in 5 steps here. I find that's the easiest thing to do when I'm going from bed to bed in the vegetable garden. And if you're new here, I'm Tasha and I love sharing backyard garden tips so that you can have a successful crop and vegetable garden every single year. First off, I like to show a pano of the garden. So here's our vegetable garden. You can see that the frost has come, so it is time to winterize. So what does winterizing actually mean? It means that you're gonna shut down each garden bed properly so that you can protect your garden over the winter time. If your frost date is not for a little while, you can choose to cover crop, which I'm not gonna talk about today, but cover cropping is a wonderful way to protect your soil over the winter. Make sure you look into what cover crops are best for your climate, best for your soil, and you can always do a soil test before winter time. Before we get started, I'm going to show you a few of our garden beds as we have some food that's still growing, and I am not going to be closing down every single bed. So here's what we overwinter. We like to overwinter chard, and you'll see here that there's some beets over there. We will be harvesting all the rest of this chard as this was planted back in the springtime, and we've had a couple different crops. The other vegetable we have growing is pak choi. This was part of our fall garden plan, and we will be enjoying this vegetable throughout this month. Here's 2 of our fall crop beds. So we have broccoli over here, which it is just doing fantastic. Check out the winter broccoli. If you've never done winter broccoli, make that part of your plan. We have some kale at the back there, and then we have some Brussels sprouts. You'll see we have some beautiful kale that we're gonna let overwinter or enjoy this fall. Okay, let's dive into the 5 tips. Tip number 1 is harvest. Harvest your bed as much as possible first. I just showed you what we're overwintering. Now you wanna pick what you do not wanna overwinter. So we're actually gonna be picking all the spinach that we have as it is not protected right now. We're having really frosty mornings and it's time for me to pick it. We can eat it fresh, but we can also freeze it, which is the beauty of growing spinach. So check out your garden bed and see what you can harvest first so that you don't have any food go to waste. So this spinach has been protected with this metal grate as we had a lot of birds eat the seeds, and we planted this spinach 3 times this fall. So I'm gonna remove this top layer. I just went ahead and took off the cover so that we can harvest spinach. The beauty about using metal is that you can reuse it year after year. This was our 3rd crop in this bed, so there are quite a few weeds. So I'm going to be going through harvesting first. This was a really good experiment this year. Some of the spinach grew really large, some of it didn't. It didn't quite get enough sun in the fall time. We also planted a little bit late because the quail ate the first 2 rounds of seeds. Okay, we had 2 little rows of spinach there. It's really nice to get some spinach, and it's almost November. Tip number 2 is weed. Weed your garden bed. Don't dig too deep though. That is something that so many people do. They dig down and they turn their soil over. Make sure you don't do that. Make sure you just take out the surface weeds and don't disturb too much of the roots. You can even just cut the tops of the weeds to leave all the roots in your garden so that the microorganisms have food over the winter time. So I'm going to go ahead here and I am going to just lightly take out the weeds. I don't want to hurt the soil too much as the beautiful microorganisms need food. So I don't worry about getting down and getting all the root system out because again, it will be covered over the winter and you're going to be amending the bed again in the springtime. So the key here is just to gently weed. You can also use a tool like this one. And I'm just going to gently rake. If you use a little rake like this, it makes the job go faster. Okay, you can see that I did a light weed here. Again, there's still a few of the leaves from the weeds, but the microorganisms will eat that, and this will be covered anyways. Now for tip number 3, you're going to be putting a thin layer of compost or a compost-rich soil on top. You only want to put 1 inch or 2 on as you're most likely going to mend your soil in the springtime. In an 8x4 bed, I usually use about 3/4 of a wheelbarrow full of soil. So let's go get it. Whew, okay, so you can see here it's about 3/4 full. I'm now gonna just spread it over the top of this bed nice and evenly. Before I do this, I wanted to show you, I did 3 feet in between our garden beds as it makes it really nice to be able to move a wheelbarrow through. So if you're looking at garden plans right now, I would do at least 3 feet in between your raised bed. I like to put a little bit on at once, and then I like to spread it around to make sure I'm not putting too much. Keep in mind your soil is going to compact over the winter as well. You'll notice I kept in the calendula and a verbena, as the seeds will be great nutrients for the birds over the winter, and they haven't died yet with the frost. Okay, tip number 4 is add leaf mulch or leaves to your vegetable garden. You can get it either from a neighbor, maybe you're gonna purchase some, but you can go and scrape up leaves and add them to your vegetable garden as a free alternative. Here's what the leaf mulch looks like. The other thing I want to mention is be careful where you get your leaves from. We got some from the municipality one time and it was full of garbage. So there's a lot of things to consider when you're looking at picking up leaves from the curbside. So maybe ask a neighbor, see if someone has a big tree that you can go and rake leaves in their yard, or purchase mulch that's 100% tree trimmings from a local nursery. I'm just gonna do a very thin layer. I only have about a half a wheelbarrow full here, and I'm just gonna lightly skim the top, again to protect the soil over the winter, but I don't want a really thick layer. Okay, now I'm just gonna spread it over nice and evenly on the bed. Okay, this bed is ready for winter. We have leaf mulched and it is just looking beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, the last step to shutting down your garden for the winter season is shutting down our minds and replenishing our body over the winter time. So tip number 5 is to make sure you rest and reflect. So this is your reminder to move around and figure out what worked, what didn't, walk your garden, and just write some notes down. Make sure you take this time to just reflect, and maybe you're gonna plan for next year, but I like to wait until January. So make sure you take care of yourself, just like your garden is gonna now rest. So my goal is to create a healthier garden for you that's easier to manage year after year. If you have any questions about today's tips, please comment below, like this video, subscribe if you haven't. It means the world to me, as I love sharing backyard garden tips and I love sharing these videos with you. I hope that you'll rest and relax. We have a lot of exciting content coming up with different recipes that we're gonna make with food that we have frozen, and we're gonna also share some tips on what we're gonna do for garden layouts next year. We're gonna be doing lots more garden tips. We're also gonna be showing you how to make some seasonal recipes with food that you can grow in your garden, and I'm looking forward to sharing garden layout tips with you. We built this garden this year and there's a lot of things that we loved about it, and there's some things that will change. It always happens that way. Nothing is perfect. So make sure you give yourself some patience and know that every year is a learning experience. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Until next time.